How lovely. Okay, so let's see if this clicker works. Bam. If y'all scan that QR code, it should give you a multiple choice question. And the answer to this is what I'm going to give to my manager so I can keep coming back to things like this. And that's why it's so important for me to get the data because, So if you've heard the word before, go ahead and click it. We have Nubank, Clojure, Datomic, and none. And it doesn't count if you heard it in the description for the talk. All right, are we getting it live? Oh, hey, look at that. Oh, this is the first time I actually did it. Oh, that's nice. Okay, cool. Thank you for the good faith person that showed up, not hearing anything. Was like, she's got purple hair. That's cool. All right, I'll see what she has to say.
It's okay.
All righty here. So, it was a cold, dark night in New York City. Rich Hickey pondered in his study, frustrated with complexity, mutated state, never-ending inherited boilerplate. He suspected that there could be a better way. Without sacrificing power, performance, or changing up state, he admired functional programming philosophies. But he was interested if they could be applied more practically. Because lists weren't uncommon academically, born in the dungeon of MIT, recursion and scheme for list processing. But humans are chaotic, and our data, it reflects that. Sequential data linked lists, good to teach, good for theory, but for production and reality, associative structures, hash maps, arrays, more authentic, dynamic. Rich thought maybe this was the way. And speaking of humans living chaotically, this time back in 2007, I was in Washington, D.C. I was a young creative rebel, frustrated with authority. The only class for me was the one I skipped, or the CSS from my sticks picks. I didn't believe that STEM was for me. I thought that math was difficult and the answers eluded me. So when I picked a path academically, I chose the School of Hard Knocks into Grateful Dead University. Fast forward to 2015. After years of meetups and talks and blogs, YouTubes and slides, Clojure had proved itself. It had scaled up in size. The community swelled, excited with hope. Simple made easy was finally in scope. Meanwhile, back in central PA, a dread-headed vagabond was not doing okay. It turns out my plan of selling grilled cheese on lot wasn't actually compelling or lucrative or legal, as I thought. Jobs weren't careers and the hours sure sucked. My brain was so bored, but then in walked some luck. So you're looking for something that's lucrative and fun? Well, have you tried programming? My experience well, there's this fire new book. It's for people like you. It's called Clojure for the Brave and True. I started to listen. Wait, what's it to do? What do you mean? Just join the Slack, read some books, eval, apply, and get cool. Fast forward a couple more years. November days in PA were getting colder and shorter. I found fun hacking away, putting data in order. I was poking around in the Clojure and Slack when Alex Miller, now my co-author, answered me back. No more opportunity grant stipends for the conj, I'm afraid. But I'm happy to gift you a ticket. No need to pay. I hope you enjoy our humble programming group. And remember to apply for my conference, strangely. I had no idea the effects it would have, and Nate Alex did. He is Clojure's cool dad. I met folks, I took notes, for loop friends forever. I learned things, I earned wings talking about compile errors. I got a job, I flew away, finally free from my cage. So when I sat down I process things through music and write beats, and that just kind of naturally came out. So I hope that was a fun start. let's do more data for my amazing product meeting. What software tools do you use? This is free range, so all the words you say are going to pop up on the screen. Scan the QR code. I just want to know who you are in the room so I know how to best talk to you. So we have Python, Clojure, Gleam. Oh, I don't know what Gleam is.
Yeah. It's something.
So I'll also introduce myself while y'all are doing that. So my name is Jordan. I go by Lambda online. And I've experienced an incredible life change through functional programming and through Clojure in particular that I'm really grateful for. And I'm also really grateful for the organizers here. It's my second time back. So this is a really good event, and I'm grateful to be here with you all. Okay, cool. Elixir, Emacs. I bet I know who some of these are. Okay, cool. Now we will move on to the talk part. So this was the opening line to my abstract if you read it. Functional programming is often seen as the domain of academic or hobbyist experimentation, but Clojure and Datomic challenge this perception. So speaking of challenging perceptions, let's challenge mine. Is this statement triggering for anybody? Because how many of you are using functional languages in production? Just do raise a hand because I didn't make a thing. Okay, cool. I'm glad that I was wrong. I love to be wrong.
Yeah.
And so I was actually going to open this talk initially talking about how Nubank may be the biggest example of a functional programming language in production. But I was very wrong. As many of you probably know, we have lots of functional programming languages, Erlang and Elixir, used in fault-tolerant distributed systems everywhere. So telecommunications, distributed systems like WhatsApp, Scala and data processing, and Clojure, of course, in fintech health analytics. And I'll do an honorable mention for Elm and TypeScript and ClojureScript, who are trying to tame the wild world of the front end. So fault-tolerant systems. And that's what functional programming languages are really good at. It's about designing systems that expect failure to recover from it. So the users don't notice that there was an error and your engineers don't get paged at 2 a.m. How? Well, they're designed to keep working correctly even when part of the system fails. So if one component crashes, the system doesn't go down entirely. It can detect the failure, isolate it, recover from it, reroute it. It's about graceful degradation instead of a total failure. Failure is part of growth. We know we might fail sometimes. Some real-world examples is WhatsApp. We have millions of concurrent users with extremely high uptime. And telecom switches. That was, I think, probably one of the most popular uses of functional programming in production, Ericsson. And Datomic, which I will share with you about today, which separates reads and writes with a peer architecture model. So when a peer goes down, others can still serve queries. And here's the image of peer architecture model. Make it fun. We'll talk about it. So, more story time. Speaking of Nubank, I want to bring this down to a personal level. We'll talk about numbers in a second. Because it's not just about programming language or architecture or even value-oriented programming. It's about values and connection and people being able to solve real problems. So Edward Whipple is the founder and was the CTO of Nubank. And he's very special in that he found Datomic on its own when he was looking for a solution to a problem. Most people experience Datomic as a part of embracing Clojure because it's made by the same team. So what was his motivation? It was an alignment in values. Nubank was created with the intention of reducing complexity for Brazilians as far as banking. And when he found software tools that were created with simplicity as a core philosophy, it was a supernatural attraction. So last October, I was in Brazil for our team all hands. And like, I'm a pretty seasoned traveler. I'm at the end of a 42-day trip right now. And independence, speaking of values, independence is one of my top values. And so I thought, instead of deal with the traffic in Sao Paulo, which is the worst you've ever experienced, it's like, I'm going to take public transport. I can do this. It'd be great. I'm a strong, independent traveler lady. It was a horrible idea. Nobody, not a soul down there spoke a word of English. My translate apps wouldn't work because it didn't have internet underground. And they kept pointing me at this card-only kiosk, which for some reason wouldn't work for me. So I decided to implement this copycat strategy. If I just like peeked at what the locals and other people were doing, I could copy their steps exactly and figure it out. So I watched person after person try to use these kiosks with like a 60, 70% success rate. And what was the common denominator? Every card with that signature purple just worked. And in that moment, all of the abstractions, all the architecture diagrams, all the internal docs, it just collapsed into something really simple, that we were giving people access and we were giving them agency, like a path forward. And it really stuck with me, not because I finally got on the train, but because it was the first time I actually experienced the difference we were making. I've worked for many a product startup doing a niche language, and they've never been as life-changing. I've never actually seen, the real effect. So it's not just writing functional code. It's not just deploying microservices.
Can everyone hear Jordan okay? Yeah? So it seems like maybe your sound is coming through that microphone.
I'm mic'd up here.
Yeah.
Should I also?
Yeah. I don't think it's working.
Okay. Well then. I didn't like it anyway. I mean, I can hear
It is on.
It is. Well, it's fine. Let's do this. My voice can carry.
Okay. Sorry.
No, apologize. Thank you for making my session better. We can edit this in post-processing. Okay. Let's see. So where was I? Not just writing functional code, not just deploying microservices, but helping people access something simple and powerful as trust in the money that they work really hard for. And plot twist, who would have thought that a bank would be the good guy? So the heart of today's talk, I'm going to dive into Clojure and Datomic and fintech, and there will be nerdy diagrams. But I want to share how these technologies enable us to build and maintain a production system that's functional in every sense of the word. So speaking of which, we love the dictionary. What does functional mean? Well, we have the Latin root here. Let's break it down further. So if we break it down, the Latin roots, we love to do that in Clojure land. It's a rich thing. The Latin is functionem, performance, execution, discharge of a duty. It's rooted in fungi, which means to perform, execute, and serve a purpose. So to be of use, to benefit. And then it moved on to be pertaining to a function or an office. Utilitarian, having practical use. So then it moved in architecture and design, meant form follows function, that aesthetic simplicity in service of purpose. So if we connect the etymology to the programming paradigm, because that's just the definition, it's just the word functional. In programming, it's taken on a different meaning. So a function, but it retains the original idea that a function performs a task. It serves a purpose, and it transforms inputs into outputs. Black box, we remember this. So when we say functional programming, we're invoking that same lineage. We're doing execution with purpose, which is pure functions with defined behavior. Clarity of role, that each function does one thing well. And the absence of side effects, just like a mathematical function. And this is distinct from imperative programming, where you instruct the system how to do something step by step, like a ceremony, rather than stating what should be true, just the performance. And this matters because functional programming isn't just a style, it's a return to fundamentals. Each part of your system has a purpose, and each function has clarity, and each transformation is intentional and traceable. So after this, I think it's really ironic that functional programming has gained a hobbyist reputation. Thanks. Based on what functional programming literally means. So it's not called functional programming because it has functions. It's called functional because its purpose is clear, its behavior is predictable, and its design reflects usefulness without distraction, focus, power, and simplicity. Just like the original Latin root, fungi, to perform, serve, to be of use. What empowers us to build systems that are value-oriented and composable and reliable enough to scale, not just in lines of code, but impact on the world. And I want to discuss two terms that we tend to use interchangeably, growth and scaling. Because growth, the etymology of that is growen, so to flourish, sprout, get bigger, and the plain definition is just an increase in size or number. But growth means more effort gets proportionally more results. Hire more engineers, add more infrastructure, more code, more complexity. It's a linear investment where cost and output rise together, versus scale comes from Latin, scala. Yeah. And it means to expand proportionally while preserving form or structure. So scaling means increasing impact without increasing complexity. And that's a really important distinction. It's not just getting big. It's not just getting bigger. It's getting better at being big. And so if growth is stacking bricks by hand, scaling is discovering the blueprint for an arch. You can support more weight with less material because of how it's shaped. And we've done both at Nubank. We've grown, but more importantly, we've scaled. And our ability to scale has come from our value-oriented mindset, both personal, as part of our culture, as part of our values, and technological. Let's see. So let's measure it. An efficiency ratio is a financial metric that assesses how effectively a company utilizes its resources to generate revenue or profit. And so it's measuring the ability of a company to convert assets, or people, I guess, into income, indicating how well they're managing their operations and maximizing their profitability. And Nubank just blows this metric away. We have a efficiency rating that is half of our competitors, 29.9 compared to 55, 50, 40. And scaling and efficiency is important because we're talking about a system that's serving over 118 million people. And it's built and maintained by like 3,000 engineers working remotely from 6 countries, possibly coming to a country near you, maybe. So we started as a core banking platform, but part of our success has been expanding to internal tools, CI/CD pipelines, analytics. We have a SIM chip now. I think we're getting in travel and personal loans, and expanding. I think an important distinction is that at Nubank, functional programming isn't just like a small area, right? A niche. Oh, this is really good. Discord comes to mind of, okay, we want to do our messaging in this because it's really good at being distributed and it's fault tolerant. But at Nubank, they went all in. It's not just tolerated, it was chosen. Like at scale, under regulation and production, very intentionally. And over the last few years, since Nubank acquired Cognitect, we've seen this under real pressure, real growth, real responsibility, and nothing's gone wrong, which is kind of cool. And our cost to serve has actually dropped from 90 cents to 80 cents. And it's really amazing because we've added 13 million customers every year, but 80% of the growth is word of mouth referrals, which is also very weird and rare. So more problems, more money. Not more money. So there were very intentional problems Nubank was trying to solve. I want you all to get an idea of just how dire the situation was.
Before Nubank was there, retail lending in Brazil was just rigged against the average individual. Interest rates on personal loans were 100% per year. There was very low financial inclusion. As recently as just 2017, 45 million Brazilians were unbanked, underbanked. And before Nubank, credit access was prohibitively expensive or just non-existent for most of Brazil's population. And so taking on this challenge, they saw all the issues with the bureaucracy in the banking systems. And that's why embracing simplicity was one of their values early on. So one of their, I guess, business values is creating fanatical customers. And that's what's helped them become the biggest independent bank in the world.
Wow.
We've helped a lot of people. Almost 6 million, first credit card, first personal loan, and 55.4 million have invested and started saving money. The ability to be able to save the money that you work hard for and have that be safe is a really big deal. All right, what's that translate to in technical terms? And I will say I can only, certain things in the Nubank, I can only say, I can only say if it's approved. And so these numbers are outdated. We are past this at this point, but this is what I have. We have petabytes of data. Over 3,000 Datomic databases. Some have over 100 billion Datoms, that's like entities. We have 4,000 microservices with Kubernetes. We process 72 billion daily events with Kafka. And we routinely handle millions of requests per second. And that's all within really complex banking regulation, where the consequence of getting it wrong isn't just a bad performance review. The consequence is going to jail. And again, with a cost to serve that's like 50% lower than most of the industry. All right, enough plugging Nubank. They're great though, but technically I work on the Datomic team. So this is also abstract. Clojure offers the flexibility of a dynamically typed language while maintaining the rigor and composability of functional paradigms. So I lured you all here with an argument about typing. How do you feel about that? But I actually don't think it's as interesting to talk about the differences because my goal isn't to convert you. Or is it? No, that's not. But what I can do is I can share stories. I can share a little bit of history so then you can better understand and appreciate our motivations and the problems that Clojure and Datomic were intending to solve. So I'd like you, my hope is that you can leave with an open mind and just basic familiarity so that in the future, if you come across problems that are relevant, you're able to take into consideration and evaluate our tools, engage whether they would be a good fit for your use case. And like a disclaimer, I'm not here to bash any language or sell you anything. We got Daddy Nubank money. Datomic is free to use now. But as I said, Nubank really likes to invest in the community because they're riding a lot on functional programming. So it's in their best interest that people are familiar with this technology. And I come to you with excitement because I really love these tools. But I also want to come to you with humility because a lot of you have made really amazing tools. And I think Clojure and Datomic are super great. But to be fair, a lot of my friends are on the core team. So that would make sense. And the community has been incredibly life-changing for me. So of course, I like them. But yeah, I don't have a formal computer science background. I have a really weird story how I got here. And if you're interested, tomorrow at 10, right after the keynote, we are doing a panel learning how to learn, where we will share some of our stories and how we got here. But too long didn't read. Scheme was my first language, and I've been a Clojure and ClojureScript developer for 7 years. And like I said, the community's been so amazing. I've never really been motivated to leave. And so because of that, I don't really have a lot of technical experience in other languages and other paradigms. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. That's the perspective that I come from. So I can speak about the benefits of a dynamically typed system, but I've never experienced the benefits of a statically typed system. So I'll just disclaimer that. But my goal is to raise awareness of our technologies because the problem statement that motivates my job is, despite high satisfaction among current users, Clojure and Datomic are relatively unknown in the broader development community.
Go here. Anything? No? Okay, here we go.
I'm gonna let you look at this. The Stack Overflow survey. Scroll all the way to the bottom. Keep going. Keep going. Oh, there we are. So this is literally the justification for my job. Like, this is why I can be here. Because Postgres, Redis, and Datomic are the most admired database, most self-reported by the users really loving it. But Datomic has the least users. And something I really like that I think I have going for me in this room is I'm relieved that most of you are sane. And maybe not sane, okay, maybe if not sane, we share some values at least. One of my favorite quotes is, "Interesting things are things worth repeating." And so I would repeat some stories. So Rich Hickey originally had no intention of becoming a programmer. We're going to talk about the history of Clojure. That's the interesting part. So he's a talented musician, and he was a music major. And if you get him talking sometime, you'll see that he has just as many opinions about music as he has about programming. And so he originally started programming as a means to an end to move MIDI files around. But after finding success in the industry, after years of working as a software developer, he did C#, he did Java, and he was navigating a lot of the issues that a lot of us have faced that brought us to functional programming to begin with. The immutable state causing hard to reproduce bugs, and concurrency becoming essential, but still difficult and error prone. Endless boilerplate code in languages like Java with inheritance hierarchies promising reusability. Object-oriented does this a lot too. Every time I learn about objects, because I was a functional programmer first, I review my OOP sometimes. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Like, it's promising reusability, but do you actually get to reuse anything? So around this time, he was frustrated. These are all of the problems that he wrote down. This is from paper History of Clojure. And the green ones are the ones that he decided to take on with Clojure. Notice that readability and lack of parentheses is not on the list, not a concern. So around this time, Paul Graham's essays on Lisp were making waves. And Graham explained how Lisp's flexibility and power gave him a competitive edge. Many of you probably remember this time. And he described Lisp as a language that wasn't tied down with conventional programming constraints, and it allowed us to think and build differently. So this was inspiring. Enough was enough. He took his retirement savings, and Rich took a 2-year sabbatical where he allowed himself to work on the problems that he found the most interesting, these problems. And in 2007, he released Clojure, a hosted functional Lisp, intended for the JVM, designed with immutability, simplicity, and practical interoperability. Ooh, saying that out loud. And developers were immediately drawn to its potential. Immutability, concurrency, Lisp for the JVM, yay. And early adopters were passionate, and for a while, it felt like Clojure could solve everything. But as excitement grew, so did the tension. Developers had strong opinions about what they wanted Clojure to become. Some wanted features added, others disagreed with Rich's decisions, and some expected their contributions to be adopted immediately. In 2009, Rich has an essay, "Open Source is Not About You," and he reminds everyone the purpose of open source. It's about the software, not about individual expectations. It's a way to share ideas and solutions. It's not a guarantee that every request will be implemented. So I was at Craft Conference in Budapest like last week, and Dylan Beatty gave a talk, and I was like, hey, that's familiar. The people who share their source code don't owe you anything, as it turns out. So, you know, you kind of think about these same questions that Rich was. What makes open source sustainable in the long run? But even though it was seemingly kind of like a down, like a dip in the community, it was really important because it helped clarify the intent that Clojure wasn't chasing popularity. I think I'm the first investment in marketing Datomic has done ever. I can tell because I get freedom to like make the logo font. Nobody had ever thought about that before. It's fun. But so it was polarizing, but it was necessary. And it set the tone for how it would evolve, not through satisfying every demand, but standing on those core philosophies of power, simplicity, and focus. And the core team delivered. Oh. Shoot. Okay, so in 2011, another important part is influencer talks, simple made easy. It's really good. Y'all would really dig it. He emphasized the distinction between simplicity and ease. One is relative, one is objective, and the importance of managing complexity through immutable data structures and pure functions. So around this time, Rich joined forces with Stu Holloway, and they created Cognitect. And there was a consulting company that maintained Clojure and then wrote Datomic. Datomic is the database product. They said, all right, so if we see how the Clojure, the language, embraces simplicity and immutability, what would it look like if a mature database followed the same thing? So released in 2012, Datomic embodied the same principles: simplicity, immutability, thinking about data as first class. It is a database that thinks like a functional programmer. And just like me, it's a weirdo. It's not quite relational, it's not quite non-relational, it's something different. It's where traditional databases engaged in something called place-oriented programming. And they did that out of necessity. In the early days, we didn't have that much storage capacity. We didn't have that much RAM. Some of y'all probably even punched cards and stuff. Yeah. But we don't have that anymore. Traditional databases are about mutation and overriding. Like, update this field in this place. The place stays the same, but you're mutating something and then asking it questions about itself. What could possibly go wrong? But Datomic flips that. So instead of where is the data, it asks what happened? When did it happen? Who decided that? And it's that shift from place-oriented to value-oriented. Value-oriented embraces immutability. And something else I think is very interesting is that we even abstract the placement out. That Datomic, Rich says that Datomic is not in the business of disks. So we're designed to sit on top of a storage layer. So your storage layer can be really anything with a key value store that we can use to store data in. We're designed and mostly used AWS right now. That's what Nubank uses. So we're kind of like optimized for that. We even have Datomic Cloud, which is like very like turnkey, just make it work, go. But we can sit over Postgres, SQL, NoSQL, Cassandra, because just like Clojure and Erlang, we're designed for real world operational constraints. Distributed systems to be durable and robust. What's really cool is it does bring in some of that expressiveness that I think that we all really appreciate about functional programming languages, and it sits at that intersection. Another poll, yay.
Listen.
What domain industry are you in? And actually, fun fact, some of your answers are guiding this talk. Like, you're in control, you have the power, because I'm running out of time. Well, let's look at the results. Banking, retail, agency, dev tools. iGaming. Is that gaming on a phone? Is that what iGaming is? Okay, retail, cloud. Well, what sticks out to me based on what our, I guess, value propositions are, like Clojure and Datomic are used very much in financial systems. Financial systems and health, where you really don't want to screw up the data and you can't afford to do that. So think about how a functional programmer thinks. We value pure functions. Datomic's queries are in data log, and they're pure and declarative. We avoid side effects. There are no destructive updates. It's just append only, so it's just adding new facts. And we compose smaller parts into larger systems. It's composable. The Datomic schema is flexible in that way. So if you're someone that appreciates functional clarity, you'll feel surprisingly at home in Datomic. Most databases rewrite and rebase your history by default, and we're used to that, which is just absolutely ridiculous. I feel like we have Stockholm syndrome with the complexity in software these days. Like most databases are like a whiteboard. You'd erase and rewrite, and the Datomic is like a journal or a ledger where you're going to add new pages, but then you get the benefit of reflective inquiry. And that's what's also helped Nubank to scale so much. All of our financial data we're able to reflect on to make better things for our customers. So I know, so this is just a model of what working in Datomic would be like. You'd create an entity, and it'd be like my hair color is blue, and then you would just add another one, but you wouldn't, all of those things would exist that you could look through them. So Datomic is kind of like Git for your data. This database as a value concept that I'm talking about. Because just like Git tracks every version of your code and lets you go back in time and explore branches, Datomic treats the entire database as an immutable value that grows over time. So you can look at all of your former branches versus just rebasing over it over and over and losing all of that insight. All right, and I know I said I wasn't going to talk about types. But how can you sleep at night without types? That's where you gotcha. I know Clojure is dynamically typed and that makes people nervous, but I want to offer a reframe. So static typing and a well-designed Datomic schema both offer guardrails. So in the Datomic world, the schema is not an afterthought. It's a first-class construct. And a lot of the way that people write Clojure, when I sit down and I start writing Clojure, I actually do start with the data model. I just mock out some data and I write a spec, and it's almost like writing your own type system. But if you use Clojure with Datomic, you can keep that schema in Datomic, and that will be the guardrails to keep you warm and safe at night. But honestly, a lot of the problems that people put type systems in for, we don't experience because we don't do breaking changes, like at all. Like once something gets added to Clojure, it's there forever. And so we call it not breaking your collars. You can literally just spin up a Clojure program from 10 years ago and it just works. Like no dependency hell, no anything. So you may not have a type checker yelling at you at compile time, but you have something better in production. You have an immutable log of every fact, every transaction, every change. You have a schema that you've thought a lot about. And it means that you can recover from errors, you can audit behavior, and you can simulate edge cases. So you get your safety not from rigidity, but from traceability and from truth. You can kind of think of Datomic schema like a gradual type system for your data, because you can define the shape of your domain using attributes, and you do things like specify cardinality, value types, uniqueness, and then you validate before transacting, so it catches it. It's designing upfront with intention instead of checking types after the fact. And like I mentioned, this isn't theoretical. We run over 3,000 databases, 100 billion datams, no runtime panics, no corrupt schemas, no data loss, just composable, resilient systems backed by a value-oriented database. All right. I heard once, it was Alex Miller, said the only reason people ever complain about talks is if they didn't deliver on what they said in the abstract. So here to the left, we have my abstract. The middle is what I asked a question, turned it into a question. And then the right is the answer. So if you, I'm coming up on time now. So thank you all.
And